Hello everybody and welcome to the latest Inside Rovers Away Days preview. Joining me to look ahead to Saturday's mouth-watering game at Wimbledon, former editor of the Doncaster Free Press, Liam Hoden, and former Rovers and Wimbledon goalkeeper, Neil Sullivan. Sully, what a game this is really. One team looking over their shoulder, the other trying to close that gap on the teams above. What do you make to it in terms of the build-up?
Well, it's that time of year, isn't it, where it starts to get a little bit nervous. Like you say, there's a lot riding top and bottom of the tables now, and every game seems to be a big game, and this is certainly a big game, as you say. One of my former teams is trying to stay out of the relegation places, and one of my former teams is trying to get out of it. So a massive game. It's just one of many that's going to throw itself up over the next. Must be about 8 weeks left of the season now.
Yeah, whatever stage you get to now, there's always going to be teams fighting for something, isn't it? Whether it's a playoff place or automatics or to stay in the league. I suppose the ideal for you is that both teams end up getting out of the trouble they find themselves in.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, they're both, both teams are very close to my heart. Spent a lot of time at both of them. Obviously, I grew up around Wimbledon and grew up there. I was there as a scholar and left at. I think I joined at 16 and left at 29. And Donny was great for me. I can't remember. I was probably there about 8 years, I think, 7 or 8 years. So, yeah, two great clubs, and that will be the ideal situation if both of them can manage to stay in the league.
Liam, Rovers go into it on the back of 3 wins out of 4 away from home, and of course Tuesday night's win against Accrington, which started this run of what looks like winnable fixtures, well, didn't it? And Gary McSheffrey said after the game, it's simply about not getting too far ahead. They've come a long way, particularly since the New Year period. But this is a big one, whatever way you look at it.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. Even if it's a case of building on that result on Tuesday night, if they can go into this one with confidence high as it should be at the minute, it's particularly away from home. But after that win and a hard-fought win against Accrington, and then cut that gap even further, get the possibility of getting it down to 1 point. It feels like momentum is firmly with them. After a few weeks of decent performances, perhaps not quite picking up the results that they deserved, or not killing teams off at times when they needed to be able to string a few results together, going back to back would be huge. It's not happened yet this season, but to do it at this week in particular and in this game would be huge.
Sully, I don't know if you've heard, but Gary McSheffrey in his press conference a few times has said that Rovers aren't going to stay up by playing champagne football. And they've certainly found a formula on the road. It's not been pretty at times, but it's been effective. They've gone and beaten MK Dons, Sunderland and Lincoln. So clearly, whatever he is saying in the dressing room is having the desired effect.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about. If you want to stay in this division, you have to find a way. And I was at the Ipswich game a few weeks ago, which was a disappointing performance and result as well. But they, like you say, they seem to have found a way or dropped on a way that suits the way or what they need. They need to get out of trouble, and you just need points. And however you do that at the moment is, obviously you want to play this champagne football and win games. But if you're not doing that, you want to stay in the position. You've got to find a way of doing it. Once you do that, once you secure your position in the table, and that's the way you want to play. At least it gives you can build on it for the next year. But at the moment, it's just all about results, performances. I think you'll take a scrappy 1-0 to get the 3 points, rather than losing and thinking, they played really well, played really attractive football. They got beat 1-0. So it's all about results.
And both teams going into it as well will be, I suppose, inevitably worried about a defeat, won't they? So these sort of games can often become so tight, and it's all on who blinks first, sort of thing. And nobody wants to lose it. Who's sort of brave enough to then go and try and win it? Yeah,
I mean, they're difficult games to go into because, like you say, no one wants to lose. So it depends what your mindset is. If you're going into it thinking, right, if we win, we pulled ourselves. If you're Wimbledon, you pulled yourself away from the relegation zone. And if you're Donny, you think, well, if we win this, we're going to climb out of the relegation. So, there's a lot to be said for going into it with that winning mentality and thinking, right, we're going to do all we can to win the game. But there's always that in the back of your mind, thinking, what if we lose? It's it's going to put us in. It's a tricky way to approach it, and only the managers will know which way they're going to approach it and what their mindset is going into it. But They're difficult times. Difficult times.
Liam, it seems an awful long time since Wimbledon came to the Eco Power and beat Rovers on the opening day. They actually started the season really well, didn't they? They've not won now since December. So, I mean, they'll be looking at this one, I'm sure, as a winnable game themselves. But for Rovers, who've been underdogs in the last few away games, now the table's slightly starting to turn a little bit. Although if you look at the betting market, they don't quite agree.
No, certainly don't. But yeah, it's interesting in terms of the mindset going into it, because and particularly the way that Rovers have been playing, it kind of fed into that underdog kind of mentality, looking to soak up a lot of pressure and really, hurt teams on the break or use the ball when you can, when you do get it. This is going to be a little bit of a different one, potentially. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, that shift in mindset, it's something that they are going to have to address over these next few games, possibly more so when they get back to the Eco Power. And it'll be interesting for Wimbledon as well, because obviously you mentioned it's been a long run for them without a win. They're going to be desperate, and particularly in this one, it just gives them that bit of breathing space again if they can get back to winning ways. So there's a lot of pressure on both teams heading into this one.
Sully, it was a clean sheet for Rovers on Tuesday night against Accrington, something that's not been all too often for them this season, but they've got a couple in the last 3-4 games or so. And if you can find that solid base, you've always got a head start, haven't you? The longer you keep the game going without conceding a goal, you only need one to go in up the other end, and you're coming back up the road with 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great base to start with. If you don't concede a goal, you're not going to lose a football match. But obviously it's a bit more difficult than that, and it takes a lot of hard work and to achieve a clean sheet, especially in this league. But yeah, it's a great way to start, and if you can get a couple of clean sheets, obviously it builds confidence. And the more chance there is when you're going into the games, you're going into it thinking, we're going to keep a clean sheet here. We've done it before. We've done it against some good teams, done it against some good players. And like you say, you find that formula, what works for you. And then, once people see that it works, they're more confident and believe in it, and are more willing to go out and stick with it. So, it's a great platform to build from.
And Liam, you wouldn't expect too many changes really from Gary McSheffrey. The team on Tuesday, it wasn't the prettiest of games, even up to Josh Martin's opener with a quarter of it to go. But again, they found a way to get the job done. And while ever the team are doing that, it is hard to make too many changes, isn't it? At risk of sort of upsetting the apple cart a little bit. Yeah,
you'd imagine that if there were kind of a big change, the big change would be as switching from the sort of the back three to a back four. But that back three's worked really well. Roshan Williams in the heart of it, just doing the basics really well. And, Ollie Younger and Joseph Oller were kind of picking up as well. That's really worked out. And so it'd be difficult to break that up with how well it's worked recently. And, plenty of energy elsewhere. And that's what's needed. Obviously, like to Matt Smith, Tommy Rowe, and Dan Gardner, who's done an excellent job since he's come back into the side. So, yeah, you won't fancy too many changes for this. Of course, we were there, Liam, when Rovers were the first visitors to the newly reformed Plough Lane. Hopefully, it's a little bit more finished than it was back then. But I suppose you can always sense that nervousness with a home crowd, can't you? When they're in the sort of position, just looking over their shoulders, and perhaps Rovers can go there with a similar mentality. We mentioned how it's going to be different. They'll probably see more of the ball than they did at Lincoln or Sunderland. However, there's still that opportunity to frustrate the home crowd, which they've done so well in recent weeks. Yeah, that's been huge, particularly on this run away. It'd be really good to experience it with people inside, and they've been getting some really good attendances down there as well. And for this, for a big game like this, the atmosphere certainly initially should be very good. Rovers taking a decent following down with them as well. But as you say, hopefully Rovers can frustrate the home supporters and getting them turning on their side. Sully, how do you see this one going then? I suppose it's slightly on the fence, given, as you mentioned earlier on.
It will be completely on the fence. Obviously you need both teams to. I want both teams to stay up, and it'll be like, who's your favourite child, isn't it? Which one I can't pick out of them. I hope both of them do well, and I hope that both of them stay up. And I'm not going to be drawn on that one.
Liam, I'll come to you then for a prediction. How do you see this one going on Saturday? A big opportunity for Rovers to close the gap closer than they've had it for a long, long time.
This is the thing at the minute. It's quite hard, and it's crazy to think this, given where the position that we're in a month ago. But it's quite hard to back against Rovers away from home. You know, with what they've managed to do with a variety of different teams. So I'm typically positive on here, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be narrow, and I fancy a 1-0 Rovers win.